This is Solid Snake, and you're listening to This Week in Geek with Mike the Birdman Dodd and the rest of the TWIG crew on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
And now it's time for another special feature.
Pickle.
Stop the front time, bitch!
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to The Prototype, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and it's been a hot minute. I am your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we travel into the summer game season of 2023. I just realized it's been a while since I've talked video games on this show. Oh boy. But we're starting off rather strong as I'm joined by my compatriots in the digital realm. I'm joined by the host of this anime podcast from the lovely state of New Jersey.
It's Ken.
And of course, just down the street, just down the road in the city of New Berlin, aka Kitchener.
Alex, the producer. And like, I could have sworn you were being facetious when you said lovely state of New Jersey.
Well, it is the state that smells perpetually like garbage, but it is the Garden State. Please,
depends
Tony
on where
Soprano,
you are.
Don't kill me. Depends on where you are and where the bodies are buried. So yes, guys, we are back here on ThisWeekInGeek.net and here on the Prototype. If this is your first time listening, where have you been over the last 20-something years? Almost 20-something years, if you can believe that. This is the show where we talk about video games and all things tied to the digital entertainment industry. And in this episode of the show, Alex proposed this to me when Sony had announced that they were going to be doing a PlayStation Showcase, one of the first ones in a really long time. There had been State of Plays, which, you know, are mini showcases, which are important, but they're not this.
Yeah,
so
this was like the first time since what?
The pandemic, really?
End of summer 2021?
Yeah, so it's been
almost 2 years.
So yeah, we are going to be talking about some of the big reveals, some of the big things that have been confirmed, and definitely some surprises. But we're also going to be talking about what happened at the Humble Games Showcase that came out the other day, and also the Japanese Showcase, or the Indie Showcase, I believe.
Yeah, which used to be 3 days of me having to sit through 5-hour streams, and they finally have condensed down to 3.5-hour stream, which is tolerable considering they blast through 297 games at once.
So Alex was quite the soldier, and he decided to cut down just a few trailers that looked interesting for us to cover on today's show. And some of these look really kind of neat, actually. I'm actually rather happy to be talking about kind of some of these. So we're going to start things off by going to the Japan Indie Showcase, and I'm actually going to be following along here. Now, normally we would have a like kind of website open for this, but I actually have it kind of playing in the background here.
Yeah, well, I'll set you up. I watched everything, and then I was making notes like in our group chat as I was watching. Anything that looked I would say good, but also it had to cover a few different categories. One, it had to look like something we're probably actually going to get here in the West. And I noticed that a lot of the trailers for these ones that looked decent actually had English voiceovers on their trailers while they were doing their presentation, so they didn't even really need the hosts that they usually have doing the on-the-fly translation. So they know that a lot of these games are starting to come out over in the West. So there's that. It has to not look like complete utter garbage, because there's a lot of Japanese indie titles that play at like 5 frames per second, and apparently that seems to be okay there.
Or they're just so weirdly niche as to have no appeal over
or
here.
Like we're not, like I'm not mentioning anything that's like the nothing here was like hentai games. No. But there's probably another conference for that at some point. But like a lot of the point and click adventure or visual novel games, the reason there's probably 20 or more that they showed, but I didn't mention any of them because anything that's actually really good that way will probably be picked up by either P-Cube in England or more than likely Axis Games. They're the ones that put out in the last 5-6 years like 6 of those games every year on the Switch. And they always have weird long titles. You know what I'm talking about? Like the visual novel games mostly geared towards women, like the romantic ones.
Oh, the ones that
and
I
also
kind of dig, right?
PCube also drops stuff here in the States too. So
yeah, exactly. But between one of those two companies, you're generally going to find any of the good stuff coming out. So there was not really any point in, like, there's not really going to be truly indie ones that don't get picked up if they're good.
The one game that Alex cut together in our little trailer compilation was a game. It looks simple, it looks fun, it looks way too hard for me, but I love the idea behind it. Kitten Lost Her Box, and it's like this pixel adventure platformer that kind of reminds you of like Super Meat Boy. And yeah, it's just that you're this little orange cat with a fish in its mouth, and you are exploring the death trap that is trying to kill this poor cat. And it looks fun. It looks frantic. It's just, these type of games are not for me.
These are for me, they're a watch somebody play them and have fun in it. Like if you wanted to hop into like Twitch and just chill, that's the kind of thing.
Exactly. Like there's going to be some speed runners who do some amazing no death, no hit runs on this, guaranteed within the first couple of weeks of release. It looks fun. It looks interesting. It looks simple, like something someone could program in a relatively quick time period. But you know what? Fine, sure, whatever. It looks fine.
And I'll preface, some of these titles may already be out on Steam or on itch or something, but they'll be early access, or they might not even have a proper English translation yet, even if you technically can play them. It's just that all these trailers that I pulled up were either the newest trailers available. I will note that some of them, the trailers I pulled up, are a little older, and the trailers I saw during the live stream were more polished and maybe had English and everything on it. But it would be so difficult for me to go into that 3.5 hour stream and then isolate each individual trailer and cut them out, especially because the trailers that you saw there were done like reviewer style, where they only took up 2/3 of the screen, and then the other third of the screen was the host talking, right?
Classic Japanese talk show kind of shit.
So you know that's the trade-off we got here. We got, when we're watching it, we might be seeing an older build, but still, I'll go through the order that I saw them in. That was the kitty one was actually the last one that they showed that I thought was really good. I'll say this: I didn't really put in very many like card-based battlers or roguelike, because there were a lot. Not just because I'm not a huge fan of them. I tried to pick ones that our audience would be into. A lot of them looked really jank. Like there wasn't a lot that looked like it was even going to be good enough to get a publisher here. And I mean, sure, there's going to be to each their own, right? But like, I try to pick things that either are going to go mainstream or maybe not go mainstream, but that are going to be like underground hits. And there's a lot they showed out of those 300 games that are never, ever going to get more than like 100 people to buy it and play it over here. So the first one that caught my eye was Lavrock. That is the giant, like, it looks like Armored Core mecha game on a lower budget.
I basically called it Roguelite Armored Core.
Yeah.
Procedurally cool. Procedurally generated battlefields and dungeons, but with like, I would say
waifu girls piloting mechs.
Waifu girls piloting mechs in like PS3 graphics, maybe.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Gundam game for like a couple seconds, and I'm like, nah, this looks like Armored Core Light, but it looks fine.
What caught me was, hey, the frame rate looks good.
Yeah, it's really good.
So that's something you might want to keep an eye out on. The next one was Super 56.
That looks kind of fun and stupid. That might be a fun
on crack.
Release. Yeah, basically.
It looks like, what if Sega in like 1998 made WarioWare?
Yeah.
All these crazy different styles. It looks like something right out of the Saturn.
Yeah.
So if you like ridiculous WarioWare, or isn't there another title that's like that we've had here?
Action 52.
Well, no, actually, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think the best description is what if Nintendo let Sega make one.
Yeah, and it looks fine. It looks fun. The other game that I saw that looks really interesting during this conference was a game called Fight of Steel, which is like, I guess, a spiritual successor to Fighter Maker, which was a PlayStation 1 game. And you basically create this like robot fighter. You can customize all these different things. You can create different kind of move sets. So you could technically create Ryu, Ken, Goku if you really wanted to, and just create all these interesting moves and just battle in the future with a robot. And it
everything
looks kind of
has,
fun.
Everything has like a multi-layered paper art sort of style.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's been in development and been in early access on Steam, I believe, and I've seen gameplay of it because I follow a lot of the indie fighting game stuff, and it's good.
Yeah,
and the trailer that you're seeing is for Steam for the early access one. The trailer in the actual showcase showed that it was coming to consoles.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's why I was like, "Oh,
they got a console deal."
Yeah, it didn't say with you. It just says consoles coming soon, and I was like, okay, so that's why I wanted to include that. I'm mostly including this one because I was surprised that Kemco made something that wasn't an RPG Maker Super Nintendo clone, but Kemco made a weird sort of 1970s pixel art survival horror JRPG.
Yeah, that looked actually kind of fun. Actually,
Raging Bites. So it's the first time that I've seen a Kemco game in like 15 years that actually looks like it's worth playing. Mm-hmm. So that's something to keep your eyes on. It'll be something that comes out for like $20 when it does come out here, and it's Kemco. They put everything out, so it's going to happen. Then there was Paw Paw Destiny.
That looked weird, but kind of cool. I don't know if it's a me game, but I love the idea.
It's a border collie playing soccer. Then there was like, again, this is like very. It's like stuff you'd see on like old Sega or TurboGrafx consoles. It's very hard to describe, except it's very unique, very Japanese. Somebody will pick it up, I think, and put it out here. If any, so. Like to me, this looks like something that
that'll end up on the Switch for sure.
It looks like Japanese Devolver.
Yeah, that's a really good way to kind of think about
very, very Devolver-esque.
But I could see like NAS America probably publishing it or something here.
Yeah.
There was another game that looks way too hard for me. I am not good at these type of games, but the art style I thought was phenomenal and just how fluid the movement was, and that was Tiny Thor.
Yeah.
That looks really cool.
See, I saw that and I was like, this looks like it almost looks like Lost Vikings in the art style.
Lost Vikings meets Hollow Knight.
It looks a lot like that Lost Vikings remaster that they did.
Yeah.
Let me see. We're getting down to only a few left that are
Tokyo Pinball, maybe, which looks weird.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I'm trying to think of what it looks like, and it's like, what if Pinball Quest on like the NES got done on cell phones from 2003?
Yeah, very cell phony.
N-Gage almost.
Like what if N-Gage had an Earthbound pinball?
Yeah, that's a really accurate description of it.
So I'm always down for a pinball game that isn't just your regular pinball.
And then the last game that we're going to talk about, this one looks interesting. It's called Two Falls, and you basically play two protagonists, and as the trailer says, you're exploring the Canadian wilderness. I think one of the leads is Indigenous. I'm almost positive.
There's two leads. One looks like a woman colonial settler, and then the other is an Indigenous hunter.
Yeah, hunter or scout or something. Yeah. It looks cool, actually.
And what's weird is like it's getting released in Japan, and like the host even stopped and said like they thought that was cool because they don't learn really anything about not like colonial times in America. Like they might know whatever the movies show them. They don't really learn anything else, and then they know even less about Canada. And then they made a comment that it's the first like historical game about Canada ever released in Japan. So they said this is very narrative driven. So
It looks
I'm in
it
for
looks
that.
it looks like Firewatch.
Yeah. That's a really good way to
Yeah.
describe the art style for it.
Like it looks like a lot of it is going to be exploring, and then there's going to be some maybe like light survival stuff, but I think you're going to get a lot of narration as you're doing things.
Now, do you think that'll come to just PCs, or do you think it'll come to console as well?
I'm going to
It'll eventually if it does well enough on Steam, it'll eventually come to consoles. Someone will pick it up.
They have a website for it, and it is like Steam makes sense obviously first. This is something, it's got the Canada Media Fund is helping with it. To me, if this is polished enough and does well enough, this screams Annapurna.
Yeah.
Like this screams like it might get something on Game Pass or might get a mainstream release on consoles through Annapurna. Like something about it, I'm just like, this is like an Annapurna game. So we'll see. Like again, we're probably a year out before we hear anything more about a finished version. Because it has a Q3 2023 Steam planned release. Expect that to maybe move forward a little bit. So it's the kind of thing where we might hear about it coming out next summer on platforms.
Also
like
running on Unreal 5, which now we're starting to see Unreal 5 games come out, which
even
is
for
good.
indies, yeah. So there's that. There was another game on there that we're not talking about. There was a few, and I picked one or two that were like Mega Man clones. So we're getting more and more like high quality, almost Inti Creates level of Mega Man clones, and there were a few there.
Yeah, something that isn't Mighty Number 9.
Anything that isn't Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Gunvolt is the other good one.
Yeah, Mighty Gunvolt is the
and Luminous
one,
and Luminous Avenger. That's the other one. But yeah, so that was pretty much it. Like I picked maybe 10-ish trailers to show. There were 297 games that they had like in their indie quick waves or something they called it, where they just showed them
insane.
Like one out. They did them in batches, like 20-minute batches, where it's like 30 seconds per game, and the host had to keep up. And they didn't have the white bread American comedian there this time. I mean, he must have been busy or something. But they had the same.
Mr. Coffee.
Well, no, there's a dude that looks like, if you picture a white guy with glasses working in an office in America in 1996, that's who he is. And I forget his name, but like he's hosted the last 3 or 4 years with them in the English version, and like he's a stand-up comedian in Japan, and his whole gimmick is
I'm American.
It's the whole gimmick is making fun of how words and phrases have different meanings and he doesn't understand in Japan.
Yeah.
It's very corny and very bad, but apparently it's hysterical to the Japanese audience.
Well,
So
that makes sense.
So he makes good money there. But then the other guy is Jamon, and he's like a pretty big like Japanese English in Japan for the Japanese market streamers. So he hosts it, and then there was another woman streamer. She's done it I think 2 or 3 years in a row with him, and again her English is pretty good. But it's funny, like they have accents, but they aren't like Japanese. Like you could tell that they had private education. Like one person sounds like they were educated by English tutors, and another person by like somebody else from another country, maybe Australia or something. But like they were good. There was like a bazillion co-streamers on this. Because
VTuber hell.
Well, and they had other hosts doing the Japanese one.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if they were real people. Mostly because of how airbrushed they looked. Like, and they weren't VTubers, but it's like they tried to digitally make them look fake. It was weird. It was whatever they're doing over there, and they're in that community, very confusing and scares me. So I'm happy that we had a couple hosts that understood and like could like break things down easier, because if I tried to watch the other co-streamers, it was too difficult. I made note privately that there was like maybe 14, maybe more than that, commercials for Curse of the what was it, Curse of the Moon?
Yep.
The spin-off like mini game thing of Bloodstained.
Bloodstained. Yeah.
And it's because it's never had a release in Japan, which blew my mind that when it had its worldwide release, Japan was one of the only countries that didn't go. To the point where
probably just a localization thing because there's a lot of text in that.
Yeah. And because I thought I didn't realize it was made in English by his team.
I do remember they said that, like they were developing it for English. I don't know. And also Japanese, they have to like completely gut the language system, probably because of just the way text works.
Exactly.
Japan.
They probably had to redo it entirely. Whereas, as far as I can tell, when they released it in China, they had a third party do the translation there, and everywhere else, like, except if I don't think it had a release in Arabic, but like every other language is printing left to right, so it's a little easier. But anyway, and then I while watching, I jumped over to some of the other streams that was looking a lot. When I did see English on the other co-streamers, a lot of people didn't understand what the game was or why it was getting so much advertisement, who the creator was. It's like there's a whole generation of people that have no idea, like like the guy's pedigree as being Symphony of the Night / all the Castlevania games post Symphony. And then the more I realized, it's not just that there's a generation that missed him because it's been 12 years since he released a game in Japan. There's a whole generation of gamers that never played any Castlevanias ever in Japan.
Because Castlevania has been a dead franchise for
and nobody
a very long time.
Like the Wii U titles and all that, like the crappy ones, the 3D ones, was it Lords of Shadow? And all, they didn't buy them there. Like they bombed terribly there. Like nobody even bought the fighting game there. Remember the fighting game on the Wii?
Judgment,
Like that. It was like the last time somebody bought. Like I think it was like Order of Ecclesia was like the last time a Japanese audience bought any of the Castlevanias.
Yeah.
So it's been like 15 years or more. So I was like,
you have a literal whole generation of gamers.
Yeah, and from what I've been digging and like reading, it's like they have like a retro gaming culture a little bit there, and it's coming out.
Retro gaming is harder to do in Japan because of copyright law.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it's pretty rare for them to get the re-releases that we keep getting here. Unless it's from Nintendo, they don't really get anything.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not like you could, like us, where we could grow up and we played a bunch of Atari games. Like, they might have heard of, but like, you're more likely to find a kid who's 15 here that's played a TurboGrafx than a kid who's 15 there that's played a PC Engine. And I like that kind of blew my mind because I always thought that it's like the mecca of gaming, but they always sort of look forward. So it's very interesting. It was interesting going into that deep dive as to why they had to hammer home that this game is got a good pedigree and you need to buy it. Whereas here, you just see like you see
just
the art.
Say
and you're
it's
like,
Iga.
it's an Iga Metroidvania, and you're like, oh, done. You don't even do anything. It's like, we just know. But yeah, so that was the indie showcase. It was funny because I said, oh, I'll have to watch that. It'll be coming up soon. Maybe we'll include that with our coverage of Xbox and all this, whenever it is. And I looked up and it had just aired 2 days earlier. So they clearly planned this to happen before all the other showcases. Because even though you think of them as being isolated in Japan and then just having the English show as an afterthought, this is the first time in the 4 years they've been running the indie showcase that some of it was pandemic related, but previously they had them in like a cinder block room that looked terrifying, and they had separated by plastic before, or they were sitting at essentially a folding table with like a tablecloth on it and a microphone. And this time they built an actual proper set. They had couches and full decor. They had an after show, and the next day they did like a Treehouse Live thing where they played all the games that they were showcased, some of the bigger ones, like, and all of this for the English set. So
Yeah.
they clearly know that people wanting to watch E3 stuff or wanting to watch Sony stuff are actually going to stream and watch this. So maybe next year we see it condensed even more, maybe have even more involvement from other things. They all seem to go apeshit, as one final note, when they showed off WrestleQuest, which got delayed, but is getting a full Japanese release.
I because the devs are local-ish, they had a demo at MagFest, and I got to play a little bit of it. Game's fucking good.
Well, and like they started playing it, and the English hosts, as well as when I flipped over and tried to watch the Japanese stream, they all went nuts. And in the Japanese stream, you just hear somebody yell "a macho man" in English. It was the only English words being said. They just went "a macho man," and then like Andre. Like, it's all the people that they know that used to go there, like, because that, like, wrestling pop culture from the 80s and 90s is still very ingrained with them. So, you know,
well, wrestling is really big in Japan.
yeah, and them, like, the fact that they went nuts for an American JRPG is rare. Like even some of the comments when I watched the Japanese stream and they had like subtitles popping up, because they did do that. So you could watch the show in English, or you could watch it in Japanese with English subtitles. Things that were popping up are people asking, you know, what company made it. Like they thought it was a Japanese company making it. I'm like, that in itself is telltale of how well it's probably going to do over there. So I can't wait to play it.
Gangbusters.
I think it might be delayed until.
I think it got delayed to the fall, I think.
Yeah, and maybe they're still trying to work out a deal for like a Game Pass or PS Plus or something. But regardless, it looks good. And that's it. That's pretty much it for that show. 3.5 hours condensed into however long we were talking here.
All right, so we're
about 25 minutes.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the Humble Showcase, and there's only a couple games here that Alex picked, thankfully.
Yeah, the rest are kind of.
The first game that Alex. Oh, sorry, Ken, go ahead.
That there is one in this that I know was not going to be your guys' jam anyway.
Yeah, so. The one that really caught my attention. So I'm not going to go necessarily in order of how Alex did it, but it's this singing opera narrative game. It's called an interactive role-playing musical. That got my attention.
Even me, and I'm not a music. I'm not the musical guy. Yeah. I saw that and went, wait a minute, I can change the lyrics, that it's going to change how the song performs and plays on the fly, and that will change the outcome of the game. I am down for that.
Yeah, it looks cool. The art style is a little weird, but it
very
still
telltale.
Looks, yeah, very telltale, but almost telltale light. Like, I don't know, just some of the character designs, but it's got an amazing voice cast. It's got like some pretty big people in the internet. I think Laura Bailey's in it. Trevor.
If you watch anime that's dubbed in Texas, they're probably in the game singing.
Yeah. There's Laura Bailey, Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson, Felicia Day, just to name a couple people. So it's got a very big caliber of a cast. It looks awesome. Honestly,
music done by Austin Winery, and this has been a huge project for Austin. He's been pumping this up, and also Troy's is the VO director for it. So that's why you get
Star Trek's in it, I think.
Yeah, that's why you get all these casts, because they're just bringing all their friends in and saying, "Hey, we got this thing going on."
How would you like to be in a video game? Why? Yes, I would.
What's weird, I know it's not the same game, but for a moment when I was watching it, I thought it was the Don't Nod game, the one about like the Greek gods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's coming. It's all about like multi-path time travel future ending game. What, you know what I'm talking about? The one where they have Hades and everything in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that the same game? And like, I thought that was Don't Nod. And then it's like, no, it's Summerfall Studios. And I'm like, who the fuck is Summerfall Studios? And it's people that used to work for Beamdog. So if you don't know who Beamdog is, They were, if I'm not mistaken, former BioWare devs
Yes.
that went on. I think they did the mobile and then eventually PC ports of the Baldur's Gate enhanced editions and like not the Neverwinter Nights. What's that? Icewind Dale.
Yeah.
And the head of the studio is David Gator. He was the lead writer for Dragon Age in the original trilogy of that. So, and he wrote the novelizations, everything. I'm like, so they've got like, as far as writers go,
Pretty big caliber.
he's one of the two best writers in Western RPGs of the last 20 years. See, the writing is down, and then it's all a matter of if the music is good, right?
Which I think
It's
it probably
Austin,
should
so it's Austin. It will be, and Austin has been. It's using some of the tech that Austin has been playing in for a while. This dynamic musical system that he's been playing with Pathless, and there was another game that he used it for recently. But like, yeah, it's gonna be great.
Well,
like, I'm super excited.
It comes out August 3rd, and I believe didn't Humble extend their deal to put games Game Pass first?
Probably.
Did we,
I don't.
have
I
we
don't know.
named this game yet, by the way, guys?
Yes, we
yes,
have.
I think at
Stray
the very
Gods.
beginning. Yeah, Stray Gods.
Stray Gods.
And
Just
it was-
making sure people know.
It's because I saw the title Stray Gods and I saw the art style from the poster. That's what made me think it was the Don't Nod game. Plus, I think that game has Troy Baker and other people in it too.
Yeah.
But yes, so it's coming out August 3rd. Fingers crossed. Like, I mean, if
It looks cool.
if it's a reasonable price, it'll be probably worth picking up anyway. But it's the kind of game that I think Microsoft would really want as a Game Pass game.
Oh yeah.
Because they can get a ton of indie good press from this.
Yeah.
There were other titles that
it might be like a 6-month thing with. It'll come to Game Pass in like 6 months or something like that.
But even who would have thought that Humble Games is actually the one putting out some of the best indie titles lately? But anyway, Lost Skies, I didn't include it in my highlight trailer because it looked cool, except there was 1 or 2 seconds of footage and then 5 or 10 minutes of them talking about how great the game is that they couldn't show us any footage of it. Cataclysmo, I think was that one show a little more, I think. Yeah, that was the Spanish game.
And by the way, Lost Skies is done by the Surgeon Simulator devs.
That's right. Yeah. Cataclysmo is done by the Moonlighter people.
Yes.
So it'll be one to watch,
Moonlighters.
but I don't think there was a ton shown yet. But it's like an RTS hybrid. We could skip some of these other ones.
Superland's sequel is out soon.
Yeah. Bow Path of the Teal Lotus looks kind of cool, but again, didn't show a ton of it yet.
It's super early. It's coming out next year, so.
And then what else we got? That other
Breeze in the Clouds.
That's the one I picked as the other highlight because it looked like you were playing a Saturday morning cartoon as a corgi
It's
dog.
also
Beat 'em up.
the music is also done by YouTuber Insane in the Rain,
Which I don't know.
who is a bit. He's a big jazz music, jazzy,
Okay.
music kind of guy. So, yeah.
Of note, this is one of the first games to receive funding from the Black Game Developer Fund.
Yes.
You remember, was it 3 or 3 years ago? Was it at the last proper E3?
I think so.
That it was either that through the wasn't the Gorilla Showcase, that was the year after. I think it was at the Future Games one where they announced that was a fund or something, and they showed off. It was a highlight. I remember a few years back, showcasing Black creators, getting not just government funding, but getting funding from this. I guess it was a bunch of philanthropists put together to try to give them a head start and having their visions told. And that I'm like, we hadn't really seen any games. I think maybe 1 or 2 had come out from it, but of lower budget ones, and it's this is like the first sort of higher profile title coming out.
Yeah.
like classic beat 'em up where you're playing a corgi,
Yep.
and that's all you need to say. Like a corgi with like the high fidelity graphics of something like, was it the new Streets of Rage that came out? Maybe,
Yeah.
or like somewhere between that and the Battletoads, like newer game. So you can
I'm saying more Battletoads ish.
yeah, which again, amazing for the budget. Looks pretty cool. And I think there was something else. What was it? Hashtag Blood.
Hashtag Blood is the one that I was talking about. It is done by some of the animators of some of the more recent swath of cartoons that have come out in the last decade or so. Joined up with a bunch of devs, and now they're doing this beat 'em up vampire game.
Like, it's weird. I'm sort of getting like a Dexter's Lab vibe.
Yes, I wouldn't doubt that some of the animators from that era are working on this.
Oh yeah, it would make sense if they at the time were like interns with Gendy or Genny or whatever his name is.
Gendy.
Gendy, because he's sort of like he's like the big papa inspiration of all the early 2000s people, right? So
yeah.
Wizard of Legend 2, that's the one you were hyped on, right?
Wizard of Legend 2, they Humble also announced that they now own Wizard of Legend outright as an IP. And it's being done.
That was an indie game beforehand from another company, right?
Yeah, it was an indie game beforehand from another company. They're doing their own thing, and this is done by the Children of Morta devs. And
which is a pretty freaking sweet game.
Yeah. And and also like the devs of the original game are kind of helping out flesh out the game as well as like good. A consulting thing.
But that's pretty much it there for the for the Humbles, and now we can sort of get into the main event here with the PlayStation Showcase. We don't need to cover everything, obviously. I guess before we go into the nitty gritty, like overall thoughts. What do you guys think? Like, to me, this was okay. It wasn't
fine.
It was like they stuck together like 2 or 3 regular state of plays and had very little. It had very little to justify it being called a PlayStation Showcase.
Yeah,
in my mind,
it kind of felt like, hey, we're gonna show you some Spider-Man shit. You already know this is coming, but sure. The Metal Gear thing for me, expected. I didn't expect the remaster collection. I didn't think they'd ever pull the friggin' trigger on that, but hopefully Sony's like, hey, money on the table, let's do that.
I don't think it's remastered. I think they're going to be emulated.
That would suck, but whatever.
But it also isn't. We don't know if it's technically PlayStation until Konami puts out like a presser. I'm assuming that this is not going to be PlayStation exclusive stuff.
Probably not. Yeah, it'll come to PC, it'll come to Xbox, it's not coming to the Switch.
Konami wants money.
it might come to the Switch, but what they might do is might put them individually on Switch.
Yeah,
and you'll end up paying like $39.99 each on Switch.
Yeah. The other one that kind of surprised me, because I just thought this was like a dead franchise, was Dragon's Dogma 2, which actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, they announced it last year, I think. But Dragon's Dogma 2 is basically the reason why we're getting Dragon's Dogma 2 is because Devil May Cry 5 made a butt ton of money for Capcom, and Capcom was like, hey, to the director, what do you want to do next? And he was like, Dragon's Dogma 2.
The other thing that kind of surprised me was that PlayStation gaming device thing, Project Q. I've got no interest in this thing. Sure, whatever.
You mean the Wii U?
Yeah, basically, yeah. If they send me a review unit, yeah, sure, whatever. But I'm not paying for this. Like, fuck off.
You can't. It has no storage. It's just a screen.
Yeah, here, have a little TV with controller stuck on it. Okay.
You can do this with your phone.
Yeah,
it's an 8-inch IPS or it's IPS or OLED. I don't think they announced.
I think it's IPS.
They cut a DualSense in half and attach it to the sides. So I guess the only advantage it has over like
Anything else?
over another controller grip would be that it has the motion and has the triggers. But guess what you could do? You could just buy yourself a small tablet and get one of those like fixture grip things and just use a regular controller with a tablet holder on top, and you've got the same thing. This thing hasn't announced prices yet. That's on purpose because it's probably going to be like $400. Now it says 8-inch HD screen, all buttons. Okay, so it's going to be, my guess, a real talk. They're going to ask what I think they're going to ask, like either. Oh, if it's more than,
going to be like 300 US.
If it's more
Something
than,
stupid.
I was going to say, if it's more than $199 US, it has no chance.
Let me ask you this, guys. Who is this for?
Nobody.
Yeah,
Nobody.
Like honestly,
This is to justify the hardware team doing something.
This screams Jim Ryan said we want this because it's why? Because they saw somebody else do something similar.
like
Steam Deck.
Yeah, like my thing with Sony's hardware recently, I mean, outside of the PlayStation 5 being ultimately a really good piece of hardware, I don't get the point of some of these things. Like, for example, PSVR 2. I'm not paying $800 for VR, dude. Like, I wouldn't even pay that for certain fantasy experiences. Like, fuck off.
I've said it before. For 800, okay, I've got to spend $840 after taxes because they raised the price. Actually, more than that. If you want to get a PlayStation 5 with a game bundle, like the Final Fantasy bundle in Canada, it's like $729 now plus taxes.
That's insane. Like, no.
So even if you want to get a plain console, they raise the price by like $50 or more. You're looking at about $850 right now, roughly, for a console. You're looking at another $850 for the VR setup. You're looking, and then that's with one controller. Let's say you really want to get a second controller so you can have a second player, and then you got to get a charging dock because these batteries drain really fast. And that's not even counting like a pro controller or anything. And then you want to get like a single game. You add it up, you're at 2,000 Canadian dollars to get VR. At that point, it better blow me, or it's not worth it. If it doesn't tickle my fancy, if you know what I'm saying, then I won't be paying $2,000 for it. You know what I can get for $2,000? I can get a gaming PC and a headset for the PC that does the same, if not more.
Yeah, like it's insane. The earbuds, fine, sure, whatever.
The earbuds intrigue me and only me because
I hate Sony's. Sony makes big chungus earbuds and it pisses me off.
Yeah, and I mean it would be worth it if the battery life is good, but they haven't announced that. They're going to be using new LDAC tech in there, which is their codec. They're saying they're going to provide lossless CD quality audio at low latency for gaming, which is something that has never been done before ever.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
So if that works, I'm not even interested in the earbuds. If that works for the earbuds, if that works for the earbuds, I'm interested in two things. One, are they going to port that over to a new version of the Pulse 3D full-size headphones? Because if they do, that means they could make them Bluetooth and we wouldn't have to have the dongle. And two, does that mean they're going to license it out and we're going to start seeing a whole bunch of like skull candy and cheap clones out there that use way higher, like is it going to move the entire wireless headphone industry forward? And I kind of feel like they're testing the waters with that release. Outside of that, that Project Q, I feel bad specifically for the PlayStation public relation reps that have to email us and expect people all across the world to give them good coverage. Because like you can send me one and I'll review it fairly, but it's probably going to get ripped to shreds.
Oh yeah, like I can tell you right now, there are certain reviewers we know personally. They're gonna go gaga over this, but you're being disingenuous at best. At worst, you're a fraud, and it's just
Or yeah, yeah, they're gonna be like, "This is great for accessibility." And it's like, how accessible is it if you can't
it's an
load the
8-inch
game?
screen.
It's an 8-inch screen. You can't load anything to it. It, like you have to already own it. Okay, this people need to realize you cannot use it to play like PlayStation remote games from a PC or from a cloud. Like you know how they had the PlayStation. I think there was the PC app that let you play like PS Plus, PS3 games through the cloud.
Yeah.
You cannot do that with this. This is only to remote play games you physically or digitally own on a physical console in your house.
See, like I have no interest in playing Ghost of Tsushima on an 8-inch screen, nor do I want to play Resident Evil 4 Remake or Spider-Man on an 8-inch screen. I'm sure that appeals to somebody, but I'm not that person.
The screen isn't HDR or
yeah.
Like, not to mention, Mike, if you want to play that, you could just look up and watch on your 50-inch screen.
Yeah, like that's more fun and accessible.
They're trying to create they're making a poor man's Steam Deck, even though it's not a poor man anything.
Yeah, it's a poor man's Steam Deck that'll go as far as your Wi-Fi. Fuck off.
Only people that this is for, and they're not even going to buy it. This is going to be This is going to be a bigger flop than the PSVR 2. PSVR 2's biggest problem is games and price. It's not a bad product. This is actually a bad product. A legitimate, like, this is a worse idea than the back buttons they released at the very end of the PS4, which I actually thought was kind of neat. But like that back button adapter that nobody remembers.
I forgot. I think I still have one around my house somewhere.
They sent me one for review.
Yeah, same here.
And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. And then one game supported it, and then nothing else used it, and then they never launched a Pro controller, and then the PS5 came out.
Yeah.
And they forgot about it. But anyway, the only people that this is for is literally, hey, I want to play my PlayStation, but my wife wants to watch Netflix, and if I don't do what she says, she won't put out. So I've got to secretly be able to play. Christ. No, seriously, that's who it's for. Yeah. That's who they're going to market it to. There's
or multi-house.
That's who they're going to market it to, but it's gonna be way too expensive.
Yeah, it's so niche that I can't see how this succeeds.
Michael, I will bet you a drink from 7-Eleven or something, or Dollar Drink Days when that launches in the summer from Mickey D's, that one of the very first and if not only commercial for it is going to be a guy playing on his PlayStation, and he's having a good old time, and he's a good old boy with his I don't know, dude bro clothes, and he's playing some, I don't know, making him play Destiny or something, even though he probably wouldn't be playing it.
Yeah.
And then his wife comes in and she snuggles up next to him, and she looks at him all pouty face because she wants to watch Friends on Netflix or something, or whatever, Peacock. And then he's like, oh, I want to be able to get laid. Okay. And then he goes, okay, honey, and with his big smiley face, and he picks up he puts down his controller on the docking station, picks up the cue from some weird pedestal they've got it on because it's unwieldy, presses a button, it turns on, she switches the input on the TV over, and she's watching Netflix snuggled next to him, and he's just got his little gaming controller playing right there. That's who it's for.
Yeah.
There's nobody else. There's nobody, and if the argument is like, oh, it's for playing in the bedroom then move your goddamn PlayStation to the bedroom.
Yeah,
like very, very few people don't have a second screen in the bedroom, and not everybody can afford two consoles, obviously, right? But like, if you plan on playing from bed, it's two cables, unplug, plug in. Or if they're saying, well, that's it's for the convenience. Nobody is going to spend $300 or $400 for that, for the edge use cases of my wife. Because here's the thing, they're going to market it like as if like it's so everybody can be sitting around watching family stuff. Nobody's going to do that, because guess what? Your wife or husband or significant other or kids or parents will be fucking pissed at you if you're still playing the game when you're supposed to be doing family time together.
Yeah, because all they're going to hear is click, 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 click.
Yeah, like it's not like it's the only reason I could see it being like that marketing being useful would be like no, even like meetings, like no, there's no, but that's the commercial they're gonna do. I'll bet you a pop.
All right.
Because what else? Who else could they market it to that would make any sense?
Yeah. Other trailers that were announced. This one kind of surprised me just because this has been a dead IP for like 20 years. Bungie's going to do a new marathon. I don't care.
Is it a remake or a new?
I guess it's a
I think
remake?
I think it's a reboot.
Yeah. So
Because
fine, sure.
Because wasn't Marathon just Halo, or Halo was like they took the engine and they made Halo?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
Halo
basically.
it's like Halo with the serial number scratched off. So
It's
yeah,
like-
sure, fine.
Because like if I remember correctly, wasn't it their take on, hey, we need a Doom game, but Doom
Yes.
doesn't play on Mac back then?
Yes.
Now there is one game I want to talk about only super quick because I can't believe this is actually a fucking thing, and it comes from Square Enix, the studio that brought you Final Fantasy and Chaos, Chaos, Chaos. How in the flying like I actually was gonna call you, Alex, when I started watching this trailer at like 1:00 in the morning last night. I was like, "What are you doing to me?" This is Foam Stars, a Splatoon-like shooter from Square Enix. Why? Why?
Mike,
Fucking
Mike.
why?
Mike, Splatoon makes fucking ridiculous money in Japan.
But it's so weird.
It's because
Like-
remember,
Where wants
coming
Splatoon
out-
money?
it's coming out
Square
on
needs a
PS
damn hit.
It's coming out on PS4 and PS5 because it's the only other platform that has any market penetration in Japan that can't play Splatoon.
Okay, fair. Just
This
I
is
saw,
going
like,
to do
why?
this,
This is going to do stupid money in Japan.
and
It
it's
just
going
is.
to be it's going to abysmally fail after the first week of paid influencers get done with it here.
yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
completely agree. Like I do not see this having
It's
any
it's
legs
gonna
beyond
die.
a
It's
season.
gonna die in the West.
You
but,
know
like,
it's bad when Square Enix shows the Square Enix logo and they tried to like spoof you by making it look like not Final Fantasy VII but like cyberpunky looking, and then it does this. And not only that, they wouldn't show which creative business unit made it. I think they outsourced it.
they probably
I-
did.
I could believe it. I could believe it.
And it's Foam Stars. I have a lot of not safe for work jokes I can make about this game, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it on air.
Thank you. Thank you.
After we get off, we'll talk about Foam Stars.
Oh dear.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's I as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I at first I thought it was a hero shooter, and then the Splatoon aspect came out, and I was like, oh, they want Splatoon money.
Yeah, I was just like, this is so dumb, but I'm
And
not the
and
audience, but I like Splatoon, so who knows?
What's
right?
crazy is no PC. This is console exclusive.
Oh
Yes.
boy, it'll be like Roller City or whatever the hell it is.
I guarantee you, Sony gave them money.
And
Yeah,
there is the website has no information on which studio made it.
delightful.
It's gonna be MTX to shit.
Not to mention, I see this and I go, and you thought that it was a good idea to sell your Western division, and this is what you make next?
Good work, guys.
Yeah.
The next game, I thought this was a Starship Troopers game at first.
Me too.
And it's Helldivers 2. Looks kind of cool. But again, I thought it was Starship Troopers. In fact, I think it would be a better game if you slap the Starship Troopers license on it, to be honest with you.
They
But
were
we have
basically
the
trying to
termination.
make it that.
Helldivers 1 is a Sony property. Helldivers is a Sony property, and Helldivers 1 is a cult classic.
I'd never even heard of it. But
Not-
I'm
not even
interested.
once.
It's of the I think it's PS3 era.
Okay. 2015, I think, is what they said the last game was. So probably PS4. But yeah,
like
I mean,
early PS4.
I mean, if we got a copy of this, yeah, sure, we'll check it out, obviously, and give it a fair shake. It looks interesting. Yeah, sure, why not? The next game that I thought this is something I've been looking forward to for quite some time, just because it looks so interesting. The Plucky Squire. That looks fucking cool. And that's an interesting idea. Like, to those of you that don't necessarily know what we're talking about, you play a character in a storybook, but then you jump out into the real world. So picture, like, I don't know, Puff the Magic Dragons,
Yeah.
Jackie Paper meets Toy Story.
2D children's like pixel art. Not pixel art, like 2D hand-drawn children's book art.
Yeah.
And then it turns into like the
3D
Toy Story
platformer?
level of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
cool. And it looks fantastic. If this game doesn't win some kind of an award, if it's good, I would be honestly surprised.
I'm surprised that some
this is the
major
kind-
studio didn't snatch it up.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that is gonna win like a bunch of dev-based awards.
It's gonna
Like,
it'll show up at,
Developers are going to go gaga over this.
like Tribeca will give it a bunch of stuff, and then depending on where it's
It
made,
might win a BAFTA.
yeah, that sort of stuff. Game, like it might win it when it comes out. It could potentially win Best Kids Game at the Game Awards.
I could
Yeah.
believe it.
Because
Really could.
there aren't any other kids games this year.
Not really, no.
Because did we? No, wait. Kirby might count. I can't remember if Jeff allows remakes.
I don't know.
It depends on the year.
The
Yeah.
next
It
game
actually
that
does.
the next game I thought looked interesting. I just don't think it's going to have much legs on it unless its competitive mode is really good. I don't think it's going to be another Payday. It's a game called Fair Games where basically it's cyberpunky heist. It looks interesting.
Well, you know what this is, right?
The Jade Raymond game.
This is the Stadia game that she was working on.
Okay, you know what? Cool. I'm
Like,
interested.
it's literally the Stadia game that they spent
is.
like 2 years making the engine for.
Mhm.
They just didn't have the game working. They had the engine working, and when they negotiated their exit, they got the code.
All
As
the
far as I
code,
know,
yeah.
they got the code. So like that's why this is coming faster than people expected. It already had like over 2 years of development.
It looks
before-
interesting. That's all I'll say for sure.
So again, they didn't show any gameplay.
Yeah, but I need to see gameplay, and it would vastly
it's-
depend on how the competitive structure is set up. Because as we were talking about influencers, will this survive the first 2 or 3 weeks of paid influencers? I certainly don't fucking know.
Now, the fact that this was using cloud or whatever computing, I have a feeling what it's going to be doing is the hacking aspect of it. It's going to be using the cloud probably to generate
Puzzles or something.
the puzzles, or it'll be using like real world not user information, like your information. Like, let's say that there's like 10,000 people playing on the servers. It's going to maybe generate maps and content, or like
It has some procedural generation that is using
your location information,
user
Like,
data to kind of build its procedural generation.
I wouldn't be
And-
surprised if it uses like Google Maps or something, or real world information to build like
Heist locations or whatever.
yeah. So like you might be visiting real locations or something based on real locations, because that's sort of the idea that they were going with initially when it was back on Stadia.
Yeah.
Again, we haven't seen much, but it's good they started the show with this, because
Yeah.
people thought it was like vaporware. It's like everybody's been talking like Jade brought this company and they're bought, and they never even showed anything, and everybody's been talking about like, why did Sony buy them? What did they show, that made them want it? They still haven't shown us what they've did to make them want it. It has to be something with the cloud,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's cloud and it's going to be a live service.
and maybe it's actually going to be stable.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, ultimately, we'll have to wait until we see some actual gameplay and see how that works out. We're gonna start to wrap things up here because Birdman's getting tired. But,
Yeah, you want me to
I'm
rapid
just
fire
gonna-
through what
Yeah.
was shown?
Yeah.
one
I'm gonna
game.
rattle off some stuff.
One game that I want to talk about for just a couple of minutes here. This
Yeah.
one kind of surprised me by how cute it looks. Obviously, I'm a big cat person. Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Whoever writes the script for that was really, really, really clever, and it looks fun.
It's basically Cat Quest 3 for the first time in a pseudo 2.5D.
Yeah, I mean, it looks neat. I was rather surprised.
I love the first 2 Cat Quests, and like, yeah, just take my money.
Yeah, like, all right, cool.
It's Cat Quest, but they've added Assassin's Creed Black Flag ship traversal.
Yeah. The other games that what can we really say about Spider-Man other than it looks cool? We know it's going to play great. The final fight's going to be Miles versus Peter.
No. It's not going to be the final fight. It's going to be like the first third.
It's going to be the fight. Like I thought it was going to be the end game thing. I think they're teasing that is going to be the midway point of the game.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be what you think is the end of the game, and then there's going to be a final third. I have a feeling that you're going to have to team up with Kraven the Hunter
to take down Venom.
Venom.
You've been trying to stop him the whole game, and then Venom
goes nuts.
Decimates.
Like
his crew or something.
There's a big fight with. You have a big fight as Peter and Miles with Kraven or whatever, and something happens that
Peter goes too far.
Peter goes too far and then tries to reject the symbiote. The symbiote tries to kill him, or maybe
takes
him
over.
And or he's. I don't think he's going to be in it. I think we're going to see Venom become Venom. And
Eddie
I think
Brock sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think Peter's going to be out of commission for the rest of the game, and because of that, I think you're going to have to go up to Kraven and be like, "Look what we have to team up to stop it," and then Kraven is going to be like, finally, some prey,
and then at the end,
I can see that.
Peter comes back and you fight Venom as the final boss or something.
I think at the end Peter comes back and Venom. The symbiote merges with Kraven.
That'd be
cool. That's your secret final boss is Kraven with Venom powers.
I mean, we already know that Venom's voice is going to be Tony Todd, so.
And they're going to tease Carnage at the end of the game. That'll be your your post-credit scene, Carnage.
Yeah, so they'll have that. I mean, it looks great, like you said. Biggest note from it. They subtly showed off that what the PS5 can do that you couldn't have done last gen.
Mm-hmm.
You can switch either at specific points or maybe on your own regularly when you're not doing a major mission. You can switch between both Spider-Mans on the fly, and it will instantly transport you to another side of town without having to load anything.
Which is cool.
It's basically
Grand Theft
evolution of GTA 5, yeah.
GTA 5 without the 90-second wait.
Yeah, but it does look cool. Alex, I will fight you in the street for this review copy.
Maybe we can get 2, or maybe what I'll do is I'll email Sony ahead of time and tell them that you have no plans to do it. You're feeling ill, so I'm going to do it.
I will stab you in the EEPROM. But yeah, this game looks phenomenal. This is probably I know Metal Gear's not coming this year, but this looks awesome.
Okay, I'll briefly go over the ones that we don't need to talk about. VR stuff, we're not really covering because
we don't have the hardware.
There were a couple neat things that they showed for the VR ones, mostly Beat Saber in 4K, which I don't think I've seen before.
Which just got dropped on the day of, right?
Yeah. There was
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Synapse looks okay. That looks like a neat VR title.
It looks like an actual shooter in VR.
Yeah. Same with there was the Resident Evil 4 VR mode, looks terrifying. Arizona Sunshine 2, that's the zombie one where you're actually you have a psychosis and the voices in your head are manifesting with words on the screen telling you to do things.
You're having a Randy Orton moment.
Yes.
I hear voices in my head.
Crossfire Sierra Squad, a Crossfire game that actually doesn't look like it sucks for VR. Tower of Fantasy, where they didn't show really any towers.
It's okay. So Tower of Fantasy, I did a little research. It is not a Hoyoverse game. It is a Hoyoverse knockoff.
Oh, so even worse. Okay.
So great value brand. Gotcha.
Moving on. Ultros. I don't want to play it but it's got that a weird neon stained glass, crazy looking vibe to it.
It is
Um,
it hints that it's probably a roguelite, so it's like a Metroidvania roguelite. Very Dead Cellsy.
Revenant Hill, you play as a cat running through the woods.
From the Night in the Woods devs.
Yep. Towers of Agabasa, Agabasaba. That's the game that looks like Horizon Zero Dawn meets Studio Ghibli's Nausicaa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks interesting. I need to see more from that before I can, really decide.
Alan Wake 2 looks cool. I'm in.
Yes, getting to Alan Wake 2. Michael,
not an Alex game.
Not physical at all.
Oh,
AAA title, no physical release, and their reasoning.
Epic is publishing.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Their reasoning for no physical on console. Oh, we just don't want to raise the price to $70. That is the most bullshit excuse I've ever heard.
That's a pretty bullshit excuse.
They're trying to tell you that they're saving you $10 by not putting it physically. Interesting, because they were able to put the last game out physically, or when they did the remaster, at $49. No problem. So, bullshit, I call. Also not for Alex, because it looks scary as shit. But if you get that for a review, Mike, I'll watch it with you. I'll
yeah, for sure. I mean,
here's the thing. I own the remaster. I haven't played it yet. I have it physically on Xbox because that's a thriller with scary moments. This looks full on Resident Evil scary.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I mean, I reviewed the original Alan Wake way back when it came out. I don't remember a goddamn thing, but I'd play it again.
The only things I know about Alan Wake are
there's a TV show allegedly.
Well, no spoilers. It's in the same universe as Control.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
You find in the main game of Control, there's a hidden area that I got to, and you read some of the paperwork, and you start reading it, and it's
written by Alan Wake.
It's Alan Wake's diaries.
Oh.
Yep.
He in the game you stumble across when traversing certain areas, you stumble across a hotel. That's a puzzle. Opening rooms and turning things, and there's weird symbols and stuff in there, and the symbols represent doorways to other worlds, perhaps. You don't really 100% know what's going on, but you do that, and then you start reading the notes in the one area, and Alan talks about stumbling across the hotel himself, so he's from another world. And then the final DLC for the game, when they did the Seasons Pass, was you find out that Alan Wake was part of one of the events, one of the anomalies that the Federal Bureau of Control had to try to isolate because it was destroying the fabric of reality. And the demon, whatever dark spirit things that were coming after him are sealed there, and you have to stop them because they're getting out. Oh. So you subtly sort of learn about the plot of Alan Wake by playing the DLC for Control, and that's what got me hyped. And at the very end of that, that's where they hinted at the remaster coming out, and then it did. But yeah, so pretty cool there. Five Nights at Freddy's. I guess people that used to be 8 years old that are now 18 might like it.
Well, there
also
is the big movie. Yeah.
Do you think the movie's going to do well?
I think it'll do better than expected because it's a Halloween movie. It'll do fine.
It's a Halloween movie. It's also done by Blumhouse, so it's done on the cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to make its money back.
Yeah, for sure.
Sword of the Sea. I'm just skipping through anything else. Helldivers, we talked about that. Ghost Rider 2 looks fun. You get to have a motorcycle in it.
Yeah, looks cool.
Yep.
Phantom Blade Zero. That's the hack and slash thing that it looks like a Ninja Gaiden game, but it's not.
Yeah.
And then,
will it have that insane Soulsborne like quality to it or not?
It probably will.
Big pop off for me was the Gris devs have a new game called Neva that is coming out on pretty much everything.
That's the sad looking one with the dead spirit animal.
Yes. That has the gorgeous art. And that's
it looks
legitimately good. That is what the game is going to look like because of how Gris looks.
Yeah. So I mean, It looks
Still
great, but
good.
it's not something that I think everybody's going to be into. But if you are, great. They showed gameplay trailer for Immortals of Avium. Not sold on it. Firewalk.
That game has spent so many years being shown off that I've just come out already. And they
I guess for me, just to kind of wrap things up for myself here, Assassin's Creed Mirage, that's been dated for October. I'm into that. Alex will probably give me the review code for that because the Assassin's Creed games are my jam.
Hopefully we can get a couple codes because
I hope so.
The animation looks a lot more fluid than what we saw in the trailer a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And outside of that, Mike, Firewalk Studios. Yeah, they showed Street Fighter. Firewalk Studios showed off Concord, or at least a teaser for that.
That looks fine.
That's the other studio that they bought around the exact same time as Jade Raymond's company, and we hadn't heard of them. But this one had nothing to show. It was just the CG, like no idea about anything else. And the only other bigger title was the Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. That's the Tales-looking RPG.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is they didn't show any user interfaces or HUDs. So we're not sure how that's actually going to look yet. But outside of that, that was pretty much it. Like, there was no, you had Dragon's Dogma. Yeah, they had Final Fantasy 16.
Metal Gear.
Talos Principle 2 officially got announced.
Yeah, Talos Principle. Metal Gear's reveal. They changed the name to Delta so that they don't have to pay royalties to whomever's involved.
Now, from what I've been reading, because I follow a lot of the Metal Gear fan pages, I think I don't know if it's officially confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it is that the original voice cast is back. So David Hayter's back as Snake.
Yeah, it's been hit or miss. He hasn't officially said it himself, which is
there's no official announcement.
It was posted on his Facebook page, and David does run that. So that would be definitely something to be keeping an eye on.
But funny thing is, you see people saying, "Well, why'd they change the name?" It's copyright reasons. They don't want to give Kojima anything. They don't want to. It's a Kojima thing. Whereas the old, I don't know. There's other things involved. It's so they can brand it as a new game, probably to get tax credits and all this crazy shit. But also, it's a little clever. Did you see, Delta, the symbol, right?
Mm-hmm.
The symbol their symbol they're using.
3 sides.
It's 3 sides, so it's still technically 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this.
And also, if you note the when they showed the collection, it's still called Delta in the collection.
Yeah, they changed the name of the game. But there has to be some.
It has to be some kind of copyright thing, and not paying Kojima.
Or they're paying for the song.
Yeah.
So there's something involved with that game in particular.
Yes.
That they had to change the name for. And who knows what it is. Because they're not trying to hide that it's the third game. It's not like they're trying to say that this is a new relaunch or something. But the fact that they changed the name in the classic collection is weird.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm really looking for this. It was not dated. My guess, we're not seeing this till late 2024. I could see this being
also no idea who's developing it either.
Yeah, no one was announced. There were rumors swirling around of who it could have. Yeah, that's who I think it's going to be. But
it had nothing on the end trailer or the end of the trailer showing the companies, and it didn't even say Konami initially until they dropped the individual 4K trailer for it.
My guess is we'll see something at Tokyo Game Show. They might show another trailer, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah. And I know it's not going to happen, but how much would it melt people's brains if Jeff's I guess opening show or whatever he calls it.
David Hayter comes out dressed as Snake. I would die.
No. If his friend Kojima has an announcement to make and it's not fucking he's not showing off Death Stranding 2, it's to announce that he's producing that Delta.
The internet would melt. But honestly, I'm super excited for this. I have a feeling this is just a prediction because the Metal Gear games have usually gotten pretty cool collector's editions. The Revengeance one is one I'm still wanting to get because of the light up lamp thing. I have a feeling we'll get something really interesting with this. Again, that's just me purely speculating.
I hope so. And I mean, we were going to go into like what we think's coming next for things, but between these three, there's a fair amount of stuff. We've got, there's more announcements of shows coming up now. Like as of this recording, Marvelous and Xseed have a showcase today. There's going to be one, THQ Nordic is doing a showcase entirely on Alone in the Dark today as well.
Okay, sure.
Then later on this summer, E3 in my mind has already started, even though there's going to be like a week. There's a week gap between, because the week of the 7th or 6th or whatever it is, on the 8th we've got Jeff's Summer Game Fest, which is I think usually 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. I'll double check, but
I think it's I have it on my calendar just
because it's a fair amount. It's not as many as in previous years, but things are much more condensed, Michael. So you won't have to be.
It's 3 p.m.
Yeah, we won't have to be watching a million things over the course of several months. Like that basically burned us all out.
Yeah.
Because next week, or not next week, the week after, like after these shows today and tomorrow, or I think there might be one tomorrow. Then June 8th is Jeff Summer Game Fest. Same day as Day of the Devs, which is I Am 8-Bit and Double Fine. Then 2 days later, 3 days later is Xbox, but it's not the Xbox plus Bethesda showcase.
Yeah, because
Xbox
Bethesda
has no games.
Going to be just showing Starfield.
Yeah,
and
because
then,
they have nothing else.
And then after that is the PC game show.
Yeah, on the same day, the PC game show. So that's right. On the 10th, I think, is Future Games, which also includes the what is it? The
and I'm sure
games
Gorilla
or
is going to
it is.
announce something.
Yep, and then a day later, on the 12th, is Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah, and they're going to show Assassin's Creed.
And
we know that.
Probably something else or two. And so that's it. Like, it's all condensed within about a 4-day period, like E3 used to be. The only things that are missing from this, like, we know EA said they're not doing anything this year. 2K said they're not doing anything this year.
That's why they're partnering with... We'll see their stuff at Jeff's.
Yeah, exactly.
If they have anything to show.
Who else is not... they did announce at some point in the summer we're getting the THQ one. But they haven't said when. Probably closer to Gamescom, if not right around it, or if not part of it. And then we haven't heard anything from Nintendo. They should be doing some big thing. Like we've got no.
They might save it for their Nintendo event. That's in
September,
Labor Day weekend,
because they only have Pikmin. That's it on the books.
Yep,
for the whole year. So that's it. And then outside of that, Square had originally planned on doing some big event. Expect the Square showcase, if they do anything, to be right around TGS or right after Final Fantasy launches, if they do anything. But outside of that, that's every company. And all within a little span like this week, and then a little span in a week and a half away. So it's not like we have to worry about too much. And I imagine we'll get like the European stuff and the Japanese stuff at the end of August and September. And it's back to sort of how it used to be. Thank God.
Yeah. So we will be offering continuing coverage on TWIG as we begin to wrap up our kind of first half of the season before we take our break in July. The microphones go off on July 1st. You can't make me come back unless I absolutely need to. No. So we will be, again, covering as much of the video game conferences as we can, offering our thoughts, opinions, and speculation. Speaking of video games, I will be speaking at a conference about video games and indigenous themes on June 6th. I should be able to announce more information about that soon, but I'll be talking about Final Fantasy, Never Alone, stuff like that, just some of the indigenous video games that have come out in the last few years. And I'm probably going to talk about Two Falls as well. I'm just going to see if I can find a little bit more information about it. Because, again, thank you, Indie Showcase, for that. So...
Yeah, well, the Japanese Indie Showcase showed off a Canadian First Nations game.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So, yeah, guys, again, thank you for doing this, and thank you to Alex for editing this podcast because I'm exhausted. But honestly, it felt good to talk about games again. It feels nice to be excited about a gaming season again, because I didn't get into the Legend of Zelda hype. That's just not my thing. But I saw Metal Gear, I saw Spider-Man, I saw some cool games about cats, I saw some stuff I really didn't expect. So I'm excited to play video games again, and it feels kind of nice to say that. So as we begin to close things out again, if you want to get in touch with the program, you can do all of our social media, Twitter, Instagram. All those are controlled by Alex. You can also email us, feedback@thisweekingeek.net. You want to contact us more directly. Alex's social media is up there. Mine is up there as always. And yeah, we look forward to talking with you guys in the future. So once again, for This Week in Geek, joining us from the great state of New Jersey, we have been
Bueller.
Am I talking to myself?
I think he has.
Sorry,
muted
I'm
or
here.
has
Okay.
shared.
Sorry.
We're going to leave that gap in.
My spirit left
that.
my body.
Something glitched out.
So that was Ken.
Yeah.
And
Joining
Alex,
us-
the producer.
And I've been Mike the Birdman saying, I hope this works next time. So until next time, folks, we will catch you right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Be excellent to each other.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.